Assalamualaikum and very good day to all. So this topic we will discuss on the farm disease and biosecurity management. Actually, this topic have been taught or you have learned in other courses, particularly in animal health. Hopefully, you guys still remember everything's in the farm disease and also the implementation of biosecurity, perhaps. So basically, this topic why it is also in the farm management because you as a farm manager, farm personnel, or a farm as executive, you must know how to manage the farm disease and also to implement the biosecurity management, which require the all procedures to reduce the risk and consequence of infection with um, prior you have to know the disease causing agent and then you know how to manage and prepare a plan for your farm. So at the end of this lecture, students should be able to define the biosecurity and understand its importance in the farm management. Second, to identify common farm diseases and their transmission routes. And third, describe key principles of biosecurity. And finally, to design a simple biosecurity plan for a livestock farm.
So, what is biosecurity? Biosecurity is the implementation of measures that reduce the risk of the introduction and spread of disease. Okay, so dalam biosecurity dia ada two pillars. First is bio exclusion, which is prevention of disease introduction and relies on external biosecurity practices. And second, biocontainment on preventing the spread of disease within a farm or a group of animal to other farm, to other animals, either it's between a human and animal or animal to human or animal to animals. So just remember, under biosecurity, it has two pillars or two centers, which is its bio-exclusion and also the bio-containment. So for bio-exclusion, is more on the prevention of disease introduction. So kita tak mau apa nama tu, penyakit masuk ke ladang kita. Whereas the biocontainment, whenever the outbreak happens in the farm, then we want to contain. Kita nak prevent disease tersebut daripada merebak ke seluruh ladang kita. So inilah perbezaan dia, bio-exclusion and juga bio-containment. Next, disease control and prevention relies on the interrelated processes of bio-exclusions, surveillance, which is pemantauan, and also the bio-containment. Then, prevention of disease is costly, actually, difficult and time-consuming, and is primarily directed at preventing epidemic or exotic diseases. What is epidemic? Epidemic can be defined as the rapid, widespread outbreak of an infectious disease within a specific community, population, or region. So we can say it more localized, local or restricted at a specific geographic area. So this is what we call the epidemic. It's a the contrast to the pandemic. Pandemic is more worldwide, right? So the common source or the infectious propagations can be sourced from a single contaminated source and spread either person to person, animal to animals, animal to human, or human to animals. So we want to practice or to apply the bioexclusions, surveillance, and biocontainment, which is actually costly because you are as a farm personnel, you are as a farm manager, you have to plan, then you have to invest at some infrastructure, chemicals, or any bio agents to prevent and also to eradicate the diseases or the agents. So that's the second sentence. what are the second sentence tell you about? What is the why it's costly, difficult, and also time consuming? Because sometimes it's hard to educate your workers to practice every day on the bioexclusions or the biosecurity lah. As general, it's biosecurity measures, right? Next, second paragraph, it's commonly involved eradication of disease causing agents from a population of animals or a geographic area. Okay, so in the biosecurity, we want to prevent and also eradicate the disease causing agents. And in a control program, we want to limit the endemic diseases to tolerable levels. So this statement emphasize on controlling program or controlling method to limit the endemic disease. Endemics refer to the internals or we can say disease or organism or disease agents consistently present within a specific population or geographic area. So in this case, the endemic refer to the existing disease lah, in that population. So once the existing disease flare out or it emerged from us uh, in that population, so we want to control it so that that disease is contained, not to easily spread to other animals. So this is a second sentence tells you about. Then although preventing exposure to disease-causing agents remain an objective of control strategies, strategies are primarily focused on limiting the consequence disease. Yeah, this is extension explanation for second sentence just now. So next, let's have a look on the principle of biosecurity of animals. So disease transmission in biosecurity, disease prevention, disease control, disease management, and disease determinants, then risk assessment, host resistance, and epidemiology. So before we practice the biosecurity measures in your farm, we have to understand the different pathway of pathogen transmissions. So based on these authors, they classified between the low risk until the high risk. So for the low risk, we can characterize for person breath, feet, and also pets and rodents. Then for the intermediate or the medium risk, air, materials, and equipment, and transport vehicle, person, clothing, and footwear. Okay, this is under the medium risk. And for the high risk, drinking water and animals. So every single elements have a different um, risk that you have to look and identify. First, disease transmission in biosecurity principle is a direct transmission. So animal to animal contacts, for example, by licking, biting, and close contact. And for the sexually transmitted disease, of course, during mating and if we use apply AI, so the use of contaminated semen can spread the sexually transmitted diseases. Next, indirect transmission via fomites objects. So fomites can be defined as non-living objects that carry disease agents. So, for example, trailers, tools, vehicles, boxes, dead animal handling equipment, loading cutes. Risk depends on how long agents survive on the surface and ease of these infections. For example, for certain bacteria, you can just wipe using alcohol, and and for a certain virus, you cannot just simply disinfect using alcohol. It might take 2 weeks or a month for their survivals, or their uh, disappeared from the surface of the fomites, right? So next, transmission by vectors, living carriers, birds, wild birds, bats, rodents, wild animals, stray pets, insects, flies, and mosquitoes. Most of the disease sometimes carried by these vectors. And so for your information, it's so hard to prevent the wild birds to enter the poultry farm, for example, and also or the ruminant farm, especially at the feed storage. We it actually is hard to prevent them, but somehow we can invest some equipments or upgrade the facilities to into the fully confined or full or closed systems to prevent these vectors uh, these vectors able to penetrate the pens or our farm. Okay. Next, airborne transmissions. Diseases can spread through air, especially in crowded animals areas. And sometimes the airborne transmissions can separate or can transmit between the pens. So that's why at the earlier discussion in topic 2, we are talking about the required distance to avoid the airborne, um, required distance between the pens or between the farm to avoid the airborne transmission disease. And next, contaminated feed and water, raw or untreated feed water can carry disease causing organism. So actually, if you go into the farm, every single thing has a potential of disease carrier, right? Or disease agent. Okay, so we try to in biosecurity we try to minimize, we try to contain the disease to spread among the animals and also to the human. uh, Objectively, we must free the our farm from disease. Okay, next, environmental sources, manure, bedding, and carcasses can spread disease if not managed properly. So, in a topic 2 and topic 3, we will discuss on them how to to design your farm for environmental friendly and how you want to manage the manure, beddings, and also carcass. For example, I take a carcass, how we want to manage it properly. We have to incinerate them or we have to build. There is a guideline by the MyGap. If you want to get the certificate of MyGap, you have to show to them, to the auditors, how you dispose the carcass. Do you have one pit? Then the depth of pit is about 1.5 meters. After that, you dump all the carcasses. Then after that, you layering by the soil and the calcium carbonate for 2 or 3 times, something like that. So you have to show to the auditors that you practice a good practice, okay, good animal practice or good good waste or carcass disposals. Okay, so that's how we manage the carcass. And next, human transmission. Farm workers and visitors can bring in or spread diseases, can act as mechanical vectors, carry on clothes, shoes, or biological vectors if infected. And last, training and hygiene practices are crucial. So dalam human transmission, actually, human can bring also the disease, can bring the disease agent. Okay, disease agent either is a bacteria, virus, or protozoa, other protozoa. So um, please please ask your visitors. Okay, later on, one fine day you become a farm manager or farm supervisor, please ask the visitors to rinse or to wash, to dip their shoes before entering your farm. All right, so before they enter the pens or the barns, they must do this biosecurity measures by dipping their shoes in the um, apa tu disinfectants, disinfectants agents lah. Okay, so if you go to the poultry farm, it's more tight biosecurity measures. You have to take a bath before you entering the farm. You have to clean your body before you entering the farm. Then after cleaning your body, then they will spray you disinfectants. Then after that, you have to change your clothes before entering the farm. Okay, so that's very tight biosecurity practice in poultry farms, right? So uh, the last sentence, training and hygiene practices are crucial. You have to train your subordinates. If you are farm manager or you are farm supervisor, you may have a subordinates under you, so you have to train them. Because kalau dekat ladang, based on my experience kan, so kalau kita daripada universiti ni, at least we know how to manage lah kan. We know how to prevent the disease. But somehow your workers, they are not really concerned on that issue kan. So kadang-kadang tu dia dah pergi ladang orang yang dah ada disease, lepas tu bila dia balik ke ladang kita tu, dia tak cuci pun kasut dia tak tukar pun baju dia terus masuk ke ladang, dan benda tu menyebabkan inilah human transmissions, between the human to the animal. So sometimes disease tu bukan daripada ladang kita, tapi dibawa masuk oleh manusia-manusia yang masuk ke ladang kita. Disease prevention in biosecurity of animals. So it comprises of three components. It's bioexclusions, stringent bioexclusion to avoid contact between the disease causing agent and the host. Second, surveillance, early detection of a breach in biosecurity through vigilance surveillance. So for the early detections, it is important because once we detect it earlier, anything occurs earlier, we can manage it. Either we can prevent it or we can eradicate it in a swiftly, right? So next, implementation, rapid implementation of a ruthless biocontainment policy. Okay, in disease control, the goal shift from simply preventing disease to reduce its impact. Okay, basically based on the economic losses. Then there are two questions we have to determine and scrutinize in our farm. How much the protection the animals already have, and how much disease challenge or risk exists on the farm. These two questions you have to look, and you have to measure in your farm. So nanti dekat practical ataupun dekat ATP, kita akan tengok juga how much these animals have protection, ataupun lagi satu, kita tengok adakah risiko disease yang existing dalam ladang tersebut. Next, disease management and disease determinants in biosecurity of animals. So, managing disease risk should be the main part of every animal's management plan. So, when we want to design the management or we want to plan the management or your operation farm every year, we have to include the managing of risk, the disease risk. Okay, so we we have to use the prevalence data first, or the previous data. Let's say last year there's a unpredictable disease outbreak. So based on that previous data and or the incidents, we use that data to properly plan in your animal health management. Okay. So next, economic planning is important. Resources like money and labor should be used based on how big the disease risk is. So you have to allocate some budget, and um, maybe some parts of your budget um, goes to the risk management, and also risk management. When I said risk management, either it is for eradication the disease agent or preventing them to spread in your farm. Okay, so a disease control plan works best when you can identify the risks earlier and take steps to manage them. Okay, understanding disease risks. Disease risk in a group of animals include chance of infection starting, say point infection. Okay, we have to identify the point infections. Then after that, you have to mapping the possibility of the spreading of the disease. Okay, how far and fast it can spread after that. So that's why we need the mapping in your farm. How far, and you have to anticipate the spreading rates in your farm. Okay. Next, total risk, aggregate risk is the combination of all individual animal risks. Okay, so every animals exposed to the risk, so you have to manage the risk. Okay, next, the spread of impact of disease depend on several key factors called disease determinants. Okay, jom kita tengok key factors yang that we call the disease determinants. So disease determinants in animals are the factor influencing the health. Broadly can be classified as a host, agent and also the environmental factors. Kalau siapa pernah belajar animal health, dia ada tiga gelong yang kita panggil host, agent and environmental factors. So uh, for the host factor ni, dia ada uh, dia ada apa ya saya nak cakap, dia ada faktor-faktor di bawah host factors. Contoh, kalau animal tersebut dah makin tua, ataupun dia just apa nama tu, baru kena disease ke. So this kind of factors uh, menyebabkan ternakan tersebut dia susceptible to the disease. So these are the orang kata apa, host factors lah. Okay, so bila dia dah lemah tu ataupun dia dalam keadaan stres, dia boleh menyebabkan infections, bacteria, virus lebih mudah disebabkan immunity rendah ataupun dipanggil immunity suppression. Okay, so based on the age as well, young or elderly animals often have lower immunity, so they have a height risk. Okay, Next, sex and gender. Sometimes the hormonal differences can influence the susceptibility, especially in female animals. Immunological state. Immunocompromised animals are at a higher risk. Okay, immunological states ni apabila ternakan dalam keadaan yang stres ke ataupun apa nama tu, tak cukup makan ke apa benda kan. So dia akan ada immunosuppression dan that will lead the animal to the higher risk for the infections. And next, the physiological state, the pregnancy animals, no, the pregnant animals, lactating animals, or the high production levels sometimes can uh, also susceptible for the risk. Okay. Next, other disease determinants, environmental factors, okay, management practices, the housing, okay, ventilation, stocking density, overcrowding sometimes can cause stress and lead to the immune suppression. And of course, we say in the management practices, do you practice the biosecurity measures in your farm? Okay. Next, nutrition in the environmental factors also, inadequate feeding or sudden diet changes can cause uh, apa nama ni, stress to the animal as well. And then climate, weather, temperature yang panas, humidity yang tinggi, seasonal, musim panas, musim hujan, musim banjir, also influence the pathogen survival and also the host resistance. Okay. Next, agent factor. So pelbagai jenis lah agent factor ni. Infectious agents sama ada viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasite or non-infectious agent, nutritional deficiencies and chemical toxins. Okay, yang ni you guys tulis sendiri ya apa yang saya cakap ni. And then pathogenicity, virulence, the severity of the illness the agent causes lah. Kita tengok pula kadang-kadang bakteria tu just menyebabkan ternakan demam sahaja. Tapi ada juga bakteria menyebabkan apa nama ni, ternakan tersebut dalam keadaan kronik, penyakit kronik. Contoh macam apa, dia mengganggu saraf. So dia macam apa ya, caprine encephalitis, dia satu penyakit tu. So ini disebabkan oleh virus, jadi dia mengganggu sistem immunity dan juga sistem animal nervous system yang menyebabkan ternakan dalam keadaan keadaan tidak sihat lah. Dia adalah banyak macam lah, shivering dia, recumbents dan sebagainya. Okay. So under agent factors juga, infection dose, how much the amount of agent required to cause disease. Sometimes just kalau infection tu, bakteria tu ataupun virus tu masuk sikit, antibody boleh lawan lagi, it's okay. Tapi kalau dah expose terlalu banyak, so menyebabkan antibody pun lemah, tak boleh lawan, so that cause a disease in the animals. Okay. So transmission again, between the disease determinants, again saya ulang sekali lagi, dia ada disease determinants, dia adalah host, environmental factors dan juga agent, and then how they transmit ataupun transmission mechanism through the contamination, ingestion of contaminated feed or water, or direct contact with feces or urine, kan, direct contact animals, so cause the contamination, and airborne inhalation of pathogens. So caprine encephalitis, caprine arthritis encephalitis. So dia ni pun disebabkan oleh airborne. Dia boleh menyebabkan boleh transmit through airborne. Okay. Vector borne, spread by insect of other arthropods, and lastly direct contact lah, sama ada through skin wounds or during the mating. So this let's say disease outbreak usually result from a complex interaction between a susceptible host, a capable of agent, and also the favorable environment. So as mentioned before on the disease determinants, so disease determinants are any factors that affect chance of disease happening or the impact of disease. So these determinants, host, environment, and the agent, it can be primary or secondary, intrinsic or extrinsic. So for example, kalau ternakan tersebut dah ada luka and then dia susceptible to the secondary infection. So sometimes we practice to prevent the secondary infection by injecting the antibiotic as a prophylactic treatment, prophylactic purposes, not for therapeutic purposes. So there are two different things. So we want to avoid the secondary infections. So if you can see here, the host resistance in biosecurity of animals, a healthy animal has a balanced immune response. They have a strong enough to fight the infections. Okay, if not too strong to avoid the overreaction and excessive or weak response harm animals' health and productivity. Okay, why resistance varies? Oh, yang ni sepatutnya kan dia belajar dalam apa nama ni, animal health lah. So resistance differs between animals due to genetic differences. These differences usually follow a Poisson distribution. A few are very weak, most are average, and a few are very strong. So kalau dalam graph ni, okay, kalau Poisson distribution ataupun kita panggil normal distribution ni, biasalah di hujung sebelah kiri maksudnya orang yang lemah ataupun animal yang lemah. Okay, so dia tak ramai, dia tak banyak. So kalau yang paling hujung di sebelah kanan, dia adalah yang kuat, yang strong. Okay, then moderate ataupun macam average tu mostly dekat tengah lah. Dia sama je macam IQ ataupun kepandaian manusia pun macam tu juga. Ada yang terlalu pandai, ada yang terlalu bodoh, ada yang medium saja, yang average saja. Okay, so dalam ladang kita pun akan ada benda yang sama jugalah. Okay, next, immunosuppressions. Just now I mentioned about the immune suppressions. So reduces immunity in both individuals and the group caused by stress. Mostly caused by stress. So how the animals get stress ataupun how do you get stress? Kan? Apa yang menyebabkan awak stres, apa yang menyebabkan the animal stress. So kita dalam as a human sekalipun, kita tak boleh stress because once kita stress, we open the disease to come to invade our immunity lah kan. Okay, so stress caused by, of course lah, first by disease, kan, infections ke apa benda ke. Second, poor nutrition, tak dapat cukup makan yang betul ataupun tak cukup dari segi protein ke, carbohydrates ke apa kan. Next, overcrowding. So overcrowding also can cause stress to the animals, and then can cause the immunosuppression lah. So overcrowding ni, that's why lah dalam animal practices, dia sepatutnya ada dah measurement dia untuk seekor duduk dalam berapa feet square. Okay, untuk ayam berapa, untuk kambing berapa, untuk lembu berapa, yang saya dah cakap dalam apa nama ni, topik week 2. Okay, so weak animals are affected the most and drag down overall health, overall herds and flock immunity. Okay, so ingat tadi graf yang kat sebelah tadi, okay, bell shaped graph. So during during the immunosuppression caused by stress, and whatever the what we call the precursor for the stress, uh, right? So whatever the precursor of stress, so yang graf yang animals yang duduk di part hujung di sebelah kiri, inilah yang akan menyebabkan dia drag down the overall herd immunity. So kita kalau boleh, kita kena identify siap-siap yang animals duduk di hujung graf tadi tersebut. Okay. So factors that decide if disease occurs: host resistance, challenge dose, and virulence. Okay, kalau host resistant, how strong the animal's immune system is. Challenge dose, how many organisms the animal is exposed to. Kalau kita ada 100 ekor, yes, benda tu dia exposed to hundreds, 100 heads lah. Virulence, how strong the pathogen is at infecting and causing the disease. Okay, yang ni, kalau kita tengok ni, factors that decide if disease occurs. Okay, kita aku tengok, first, macam mana, okay, katakan kita ada 100 ekor tadi, seekor dia kena penyakit, so kena disease, kena infection. Okay, so bila kita tengok dia ada infection, they will show the sign, okay, the clinical signs, apa benda yang dia akan tunjukkan. Dan lepas tu kita tengok how fast actually kita tengok how fast, tadi kan kita ada 100 kan, contoh, yang kedua tu, dalam kandang kita ada 100 ekor, so seekor dah kena, so kita ada 99 ekor lagi yang exposed to the disease lah, actually kan. So kita tengok pula dalam masa sehari berapa ekor yang dah infected, ataupun dalam masa seminggu berapa ekor yang infected. Kalau kita rasa that's the things yang kita perlu ada surveillance, every day, every time kita kena tengok, kita kena buat pemantauan. Basically dia susah sikit nak tengok sebab dia kena tunggu sampai ada simptom, sampai they show the clinical symptoms, barulah kita boleh treat them based on the symptom, kan. Sebab kalau kita kalau praktikal dekat penternak lah, dia tidaklah nak hantar blood sample ke lab apa benda kan, nak analyse penyakit apa, itu ridiculous lah, tak boleh buat lah kan. Benda tu tak praktikal untuk dia buat di ladang. So what the farmers practice, mereka just treat by the symptom. So you are as a farm manager, kita ni animal science students, so benda yang paling simple adalah kita treat by the symptoms. So either we can treat them therapeutic ataupun prophylactic. Okay, next, epidemiology in biosecurity of animals. So epidemiology can be defined as how disease, health conditions, and injuries are distributed, propagated, caused, and controlled within defined population. So dia macam kita nak tahu macam mana penyakit ataupun keadaan kesihatan ternakan tersebut, injury yang berlaku, berpunca, disebabkan, macam mana dia boleh merebak, macam mana kita nak control, something like that lah. So epidemiology, itu maksud epidemiology. So effective biosecurity depend on knowing how disease spread. So we have to know how the disease spread. For example, for the mastitis in the dairy cattle, so how this kind of disease spreads into the animals, between the animals. Okay, then disease outcome involve many factors. So disease dependence, as we discussed later, as we discussed previously in the previous slide. and then they use epidemiology and the risk analysis to guide control strategies and reduce financial loss. So now we have to determine the distributions, examine the frequency and patterns of the health event, who is getting sick, where, on when. So yang ni kita kena tahu macam mana dia boleh distribute ataupun propagate. And then we investigate determinants, the causes of the disease, and also the risk factors that influence the health related. Okay, then we have to apply the finding to control the health problem and implement prevention strategies. So, what kind of data do you need? So, you have to collect data. Either it is the descriptive, maksudnya based on your observation, or your staff will observe, then dia akan cakap, encik, ternakan kita ni macam recumbents. Okay, so that's the descriptive. Recumbents ada dalam 10 ekor dia dah recumbent, ataupun recumbent sudah dah agak late lah. So kalau early detection seems like macam dia tak makan, 10 ekor tu tak makan, yang lagi 20 ekor makan kan. So ada 10 ekor tak makan tu, apa description ataupun is a earlier signs ternakan tersebut ada penyakit. Okay, so we have to analyze and analytical, okay, analyze the cause, kenapa dia tak makan. So bila kenapa dia tak makan tu, kita kena tengok pula, oh badan panas, rupanya dia kembung, kan, dia bloat, or dia punya temperature increase. So kita kena tengoklah apa punca dia, apa penyebab dia kan. That's we call it analyze. And then kalau ada duit sikit, kita boleh intervention through the experimental ataupun testing. For example, kita ambil dia punya darah dia, and then kita check ada tak infection blood or other things lah kan, dalam kita panggil sebagai testing approaches. So saya ulang sekali lagi, untuk to control the disease ni, kita kena faham berkenaan dengan epidemiologi dia, okay, how distribution, determinants, and apply to control apa yang you nak, strategi apa yang nak control untuk reduce the risk, and what kind of data that you need to gather before you apply the control measures kan. Descriptive data, analytic data, and also the testing data. So these three types of data that's required for effectively control, we apply the control strategies. Key epidemiological factors to consider: source of infections, yes, determinants. Okay, identify the infected animals and understand shedding patterns, how often and long pathogens are released, host range, mode of transmissions, and farming practice that increase risk. These things we discussed just now. Next, transmission. Okay, horizontal transmission, equal to between animals, so animal to animals. Either they are direct contact, nose to nose, mating, indirect contact, contaminated tools, peoples and vehicles, or vertical transmission, equal to from parents to offspring via placenta, eggs or embryo, and one more through milk. Okay, for the lactating animals, so maybe the calf or the lamb or kid receive the transmission via the milk. Okay, spread influenced by incubation period. How long before the symptom appear? Macam tadi yang slide awal saya ada bagi tahu, kadang-kadang kita susah sikit nak tengok. Katakan tadi yang 100 ekor, seekor kena, then bila pula yang individu kedua pula yang akan kena disease tersebut? Because the bacteria or the virus they have the incubation periods 3 hari, 4 hari, 7 hari before the symptom appears. So yang ni yang perlukan pemantauan, perlukan surveillance every day, every time. Okay. Next, replication, shedding rates of the pathogen. Ni macam mana pathogen tersebut lah nak apa nama tu, nak infect the host. Okay, virulence, how harmful the disease is, contact rate between animals. So contact rate between animals ni kita boleh calculate actually. Tengok dalam masa sehari berapa ekor yang kena ataupun berapa ekor yang menunjukkan simptom lah. Paling senang kita akan tengok simptom lah. Okay, so bila tengok simptom tu it take some time compare to macam kita buat blood test. Okay, yang tu cepat sikit lah. Faster spread equal to more risk, especially if the agent survive long in the environment. So in the tropical environment, it's so they're susceptible for the host to be infected by the agents lah. Okay, next, susceptibility and predispositions. Know which animal are more likely to get sick, species, breed, age. So tadi kita dah discuss berapa faktor yang host tu ada masalah pula. Dari segi age dia, dari segi production stage dia, dari segi apa nama lagi, ialah kekuatan imuniti dia sendirilah. So tengok risiko ternakan mana pula yang akan kena, and then risk increases with poor immunity, environmental stress and poor nutrition or management. Okay, next, prevalence. High prevalence equal to higher chance of new infections. Endemic diseases always present, are harder to prevent. Okay, yang endemic yang kita bincang awal-awal tadi. And then epidemic diseases are easier to detect and contain earlier. Maksudnya disease daripada luar kita mudah untuk nak kesan dan juga kita kawal dengan lebih awal. Compare to the endemic disease, kita susah sikit sebab kadang-kadang dia tak express. Dia tunggu dia punya host tu stress, barulah dia punya jalan cerita macam ni. Bila host stress, the animal stress, then immunosuppression berlaku. Bila immunity rendah, barulah the agent, the disease, the pathogen lah, sama ada bakteria ataupun virus, protozoa ke apa ke, barulah attack the immunity, then dia akan express the disease, and then the animal will show the symptom. That's why it's harder to prevent lah. Okay, semua kita kena buat banyak surveillance. So prevalence ni dia lebih tengok kepada keadaan di mana widespread, common or existing frequently in a specific time, specific place or specific time. Macam itulah. Dia nak measure how many ataupun the total numbers of existing cases caused by this disease within the population. Kan? So selalunya kita tengok pada frekuensi lah. Bahasa mudah untuk prevalence ni adalah frekuensi. Berapa banyak ternakan ataupun kita punya animals tu infected by the disease. Okay, next. Morbidity and mortality. These are two terms maybe you guys have learned in animal health. So the morbidity equal to the percentage of animals showing signs of illness. So this is morbidity. Mortality, percentage of animals that die from the disease. So fast spreading diseases often have high morbidity. Sometimes certain disease they show the high morbidity but less mortality. Some of the disease their mortality tinggi but morbidity rendah. Macam itulah. So depend on what kind of disease perhaps you guys have learned in animal health. Next, recovery. Recovery depends on type and strength of pathogens, kuat ataupun tak kuat lah infectious berlaku. And then the animal immunity. Okay, once the animals tengah sakit, yes, you treat like using the antibiotics or whatever. And then you have to support to support the feed for the animals. For example, bila dia sakit, dia tak perlu makan, jadi kita tak boleh biar dia tak makan tu. So we have to support that infected animals by supply lebih sikit pellet ke ataupun molasses ke, kan, bagi dia ada energy, bagi dia ada something some proteins to build the immune system dia lah. Okay, to strengthen the immune system dia. Treatment and care, yes, TNC. Treatment, jadi kita cakap kalau ada infected disease, selalunya kita akan pakai antibiotik lah. But we can prevent, kita boleh prevent menggunakan vaksin. Certain vaccines like FMD ke, vaksin apa, kebiasaan ternakan kita adalah vaksin FMD, untuk ruminant lah, untuk ruminant, kambing ke lembu ke. So kita pakai FMD. LSD ni jarang-jarang berlaku, tapi pernah berlaku di Malaysia, outbreak LSD. So susah sikit nak dapatkan dia punya vaksin LSD. Okay, then after that, care. Of course, we give them treatment, but we have to take care. We have to take care that animal as well. So sama ada you kena bagi makan, you kena mandikan, depend. That's the care lah. And then next, environmental and stress factors. So kalau biasanya kalau ternakan yang sakit ni, kita akan isolate into the what we call private parts ataupun private pens. Then kita nak reducekan dia punya stress and make it comfortable, kan, so dia akan recover dengan lebih cepat. Okay, but if you give the treatment for maybe more than 1 week, then after that you see the animals recumbent, unable to eat. So that's the final things you have to do is culling. Okay. Right. The 3 levels of biosecurity of animals. Conceptual biosecurity, this is a primary level. So we focus on the farm location and isolation. First line of defense, best protections equal to physical isolation. Yes, once you see the symptom, you have to isolate the animals. And then farm should not be near to the other farms, public roads, slaughterhouses, market fairs, or the animal shows. These are we cannot strictly define on these, but we try our best to minimize the risk. Okay. Next, other isolation practices: no shared vehicles, equipment between the farms, limit access to farm only to essential personnel. So that's why you have to restrict visitors to your farm. Maybe you have to provide just one pens for visitors and others is restricted to the visitors. Next, control disease spread from wildlife, vermin or wind. Okay. Yang ni kan contoh, waktu saya bekerja dulu, we have 80 pens, kan, 80 pens, but for visitors only, we allow the visitors only 4 pens, which is these pens located that's located near to the biosecurity practice lah. For example, dia kena masuk dekat kawasan tu, dia kena lalu dan kita akan spray dia punya kasut, baju and all those things, ataupun vehicles dia, dan kandang 4 tu berada di hadapan, paling depan sekali. So kita tengoklah, kita boleh control the visitors in our farm. Next, structural biosecurity, secondary level. So farm design and infrastructure refers to the physical setup of the farm lah. Okay, betul. Structural biosecurity. So waktu you design the farm tu kena ada biosecurity punya orang kata apa? Component. Okay, including fencing, gates, drainage, layout, shower, change room, air filtration system, ni certain animal lah. Enclosed loading areas, good animal housing design, and you have also to what we call to record the traffic, record the traffic flow for every vehicles enter to your farm, people or feed or animals in out. And next, the procedural biosecurity tertiary level, daily routines and hygiene. So yang ni kita kena train our workers deal with the practices to prevent disease entry or spread, must be regularly updated and adjusted during outbreak. For example, shower, change your farm clothes before entry, and use farm only boots and clothes. Okay, farm only boots only used in the farm. You cannot bring to your home. Okay, for the clothes as well. Wash hand and disinfect tools, equipments at entry points. So these are all the measurements. Okay, with that, thank you so much. Please refer to eCampus. So there is an activity for you to plan the biosecurity plan for your farm. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.